Hey guys, so today I'm going to introduce to you volume support. So we talked about it a little bit. It's really like PRVC for a spontaneous breathing patient. It's important, even though we're not using it as a whole lot on adults here locally. It is important to understand what volume support is if you're going to work more with kids, or for you to clearly understand how ASV works, because it uses volume support for a spontaneous breath here. So on this particular ventilator, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go to modes. I'm going to choose VS or volume support. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. All right. So in this case, it is giving us the option for a target tidal volume. So it's a target spontaneous tidal volume. All right. So we choose whatever we wanted to be our threshold for that patient. All right, PEEP and FiO2, just like regular kind of pressure support type stuff you'd be dealing with. Right, we set our rise time, so how quickly and how aggressively we're going to deliver these pressure, these adjusted levels of pressure support to the patient, and then flow cycle percentage, so we can kind of adjust rise time and flow cycle percentage to meet that patient's comfort needs and everything like that. All right, so we also got our backup stuff here. We'll go ahead and make some adjustments. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit confirm. I do have to kind of be spontaneously breathing here, so kind of bear with me. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit start. So what it's going to do, opposed to like AVAPs, where it's looking at a value or an average over a minute, it's going to look at my patient's exit or my delivered tidal volume and everything like that, and it's going to adjust the level of pressure support that my patient is getting in order to get me closer to my targeted goal. So in these cases, all right, it's delivering. I got a PEEP of 5, and I have a total peak pressure, 21. So it's giving me roughly 15 centimeters of inspiratory assistance. Okay, if something were to happen and I wasn't making as active of efforts, you'll see it initially drops. But what's it doing? It's going to start increasing the level of pressure support necessary in order to get me back to my target. So it still has the confines of just like PRVC, where it can't instantly change there. It takes several breaths to do so. It'll only go up by a few centimeters or 1 to 3 centimeters of water at a time. And likewise, it'll go back down, but it generally is going to adjust stuff on a much quicker format than like what AVAPs would or anything like that. We're just looking at an average over the course of a minute. This is looking at a breath by breath basis here and everything. So, volume support can be useful if you want a patient who's spontaneously breathing, but you're leery about putting them on pressure support, inability to, maybe changing respiratory drive, maybe, significant changes, a lot of secretions or resistance problems and stuff like that. If you were worried about them maintaining an appropriate, delivered tidal volume in a spontaneous format, but you want them to breathe comfortably in the spontaneous format, volume support can be a great option and everything, okay? Um, I would say that if you're really worried about them maintaining a drive, ASV would even be better because it allows them to breathe spontaneously and get volume support, but you also have mandatory breaths to fall back upon if something happens, because this is truly a spontaneous mode, and volume support where ASV is IMV, which I kind of covered in another video here. All right. How do we know? And I got my ASV graphs kind of up here right now. Let me change some stuff. I'll go to our dynamic lung, and then I like to look at the vent status tab. How would we know if our patient is doing well and ready to wean? Well, just like with pressure support, think about it. Instead of you setting pressure support, you're setting the target tidal volume. We have to evaluate how much force it takes in order, from the ventilator in order to achieve that patient's targeted parameters. So if you pull up this vent status panel down here in this bottom right, it'll show you, hey, this patient's breathing 100% spontaneously. All right. It shows you their RSBI, but remember, that's really more beneficial if we're looking at things unassisted. All right. It shows you their minute volumes in check. All right. But another parameter is inspiratory pressure. So right now you're getting 8 centimeters of water pressure in order to achieve your target tidal volume. So if that's what if depending on what your facility's views are on weaning, it's how much pressure support is this patient really receiving to get these tidal volumes. So you could, if you saw that they have a really low airway pressure, all right, in this case, it's delivering 5 centimeters of inspiratory pressure, all right, to achieve this 400 mil tidal volume. You could actually extubate a patient from this if you wanted to, or if you're a little bit scared, you could switch them over and do a formal spontaneous breathing trial just to see how they're doing. But you can see everything is kind of falling into what it considers acceptable parameters, and my timer is started here. Okay, I'm achieving my tidal volume. I don't have a high minute ventilation or oxygenation requirement. My inspiratory pressure is nice and low. It's less than 10. All right. And my RSBI right now is pretty low. And technically, I'm on, 3 centimeters of pressure support and 5 of PEEP. So once again, it's just knowing how the mode that you're in, or the way you're delivering a particular control variable to your patient kind of works, and being able to evaluate the measurements and kind of dictate how that patient's doing. So once again, in this case, you could actually extubate them from, or consider liberation from the ventilator in volume support. You just have to recognize that this is it's choosing how much pressure support to give to reach your targeted tidal volume you selected, rather than the other way around. You adjust in pressure support to get to that target tidal volume. All right. So if they're reaching their target tidal volume and a low pressure and they look good, you can consider them for extubation and everything. So I don't know why we don't use volume support as much in the adult world, but it seems like I've used it a lot more in kids than in the adult population and everything. I don't know if doctors don't know this exists or what, but it's another option on the Hamilton ventilator series, and you also see that on your Puritan Bennett ventilator series, the 84980 and everything like that as well. So I'm going to stop that video here. I'm going to go ahead and put this thing in standby, and I hope that helps. And once again, volume support is essential because it is the spontaneous application, or it'd be the same for the spontaneous breaths as we get into ASV on the Hamilton ventilator series. So hope that helps, guys.